Hey guys, what's up and welcome to another episode of 2-Bit Talks. And today the subject is going to be about a commenter. 151 Pokemon had commented on a previous video of mine, and he asked a series of questions actually. What if Nintendo would have stopped making consoles and handhelds after both the GameCube and Game Boy advanced? And if later systems from the Wii and DS onwards never existed, would Nintendo have gone third party? What would have happened? How would the video game industry and the entire world be different if Nintendo had stopped making consoles and handhelds after GameCube and Game Boy Advanced? It would be a much sadder and darker world if you ask me, because I feel like if it had just been left up to PlayStation and Xbox, there probably would have been a third company jumping in to make hardware. Who, I don't know. But usually the reason why there's only 3 hardware manufacturers is because they pretty much have the market sewn up. If anyone else wants to come in and compete, it's really hard for them to do that. But once one leaves the market, it presents an opening. Case in point, when Sega left the hardware market in 2000, that pretty much opened the window for Microsoft to come in and step into that void and get that market share that was Sega's. And so I think that probably would have happened more than likely, but then again, I still think it would have been because each company, I think, provides a certain style and a certain group of genres to gaming. Nintendo, of course, is Nintendo. So you get a lot of that type of experience, like the Mario and Zelda and what have you. Sony, of course, you get a lot of big single-player narrative type experiences, and you get a lot of more Japanese-styled games, more mature Japanese-styled games, like your Final Fantasies and whatnot. And Xbox, of course, you get a lot of, I've always felt Xbox, you've gotten more of a westernized game, so there's a lot more games that are designed for the West as opposed to, Japanese type games. And also, I always felt that the Xbox got a lot more PC crossover than the PlayStation did, because Microsoft, being from the PC space originally, I felt like they brought in a lot of different companies that at that time were only making games on PC, finally had a chance to come in and dip their toes into the console hardware. So I think all of the big 3 manufacturers add something to the industry. And you take any of those out, there's a big hole there that's missing. And who fills the void? I don't know. Honestly, Nintendo wouldn't have stopped making handhelds, maybe hardware, but they would have continued to make handhelds. They were and still are hugely successful in it. So it's hard to see them saying, okay, we're not making hardware, we're going third party. But yeah, I know we were making handhelds too, but we're not going to do that anymore. It's hard for me to see them do that, but if we lived in a world where they did do that, it's hard to say. Maybe they would make some. I could easily see them making deals with Microsoft, especially in North America. One reason why is because they're both based in the same area. They're both based in Washington. Nintendo of North America and, of course, Xbox, Microsoft are based in Washington State. So they already are headquartered and share a similar region and culture together. Now, then again, on the reverse, in Japan, they would probably make a few deals with Sony. So it could be a situation where maybe you did see a lot more of the mainstream Mario titles make it over to Xbox, and more of their Japanese, like Fire Emblems, what have you, make it over to the PlayStation brand. I could easily see something like that. But then again, Nintendo had at that point had a very bitter rivalry with Sony. So I don't see them as open at that time to working with Sony as opposed to working with Microsoft. So I think that's what would have happened. If they would have went third party, they probably would have done what Sega did. There's certain franchises you have, say in Japan, that are really big there. So you go with the hardware manufacturer that best suits that region. So PlayStation. But then again, on the other hand, more of your mainstream titles that you really want to be a big success in the West, maybe you would have worked with Microsoft more, especially since it's a company that shares a lot of especially on the North American side, it's a company that shares a lot of the similarities with yours, being region, the culture of that region. I'm pretty sure people work in between those two companies. If someone leaves Nintendo, they probably go over and work for Xbox and vice versa. So there's a connection there between those. That's what I think would have happened. We probably would have never had motion controls ever, so that means no Kinect. Or no PlayStation Move. Maybe we would have had it, but honestly, Nintendo showed that there was a market there. And that would be another sad thing, We might not like these gimmicks Nintendo comes up with, but Nintendo at least finds new markets. Where I feel like Sony and Microsoft just kind of, they go with the flow and they go with whatever is currently going on. It's like, hey, this is what's popular, we're going to invest in this. Where Nintendo actually goes, yeah, that's what's popular, but what's the next big thing? And Nintendo's kind of like the pioneers, I feel, of gaming, and I think that would be missing. Maybe someone would pick up the mantle, maybe a third hardware manufacturer, whether it be Apple or someone stepping in to do that, or maybe one of the other, maybe Sony decides to become the pioneer, or maybe Microsoft would decide to become, we're going to be the ones who push the envelope with hardware. Because even remember before, we know Nintendo now is like the pioneer, but Sega in the 90s was a huge pioneer in hardware. They did the backwards compatibility with the power converter, so you could play Sega Master Systems on your Sega Genesis. Of course, they followed the TurboGrafx 16's example by adding a CD player to the Sega Genesis, so you had Sega CD. And, of course, they had online with, was it the Sega F channel or Sega channel or whatnot? So I think maybe someone would step up and do that. So, in some respects, the video game industry would have not changed in how it does things. But in other aspects, there would be a huge, I think, hole in the industry with Nintendo not making hardware. Well, I hope I answered your questions to a satisfactory level, 151 Pokemon. Thanks for asking the question. Again, guys, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the description box below. I will actually do videos on it. So if you want to talk about some subject, let me know in that comment section below, and it will appear in a future video. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ding the bell. That way you keep up with everything that I'm doing here on the channel. And as always, stay safe and play on.